This is Just Keep Breathing with your host, Richard Curtin on National Radio.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tuesday, August 14th, 2012. This is Just Keep Breathing. I am your host, Richard Curtin, and my in-studio guest today, Major Jimenez. How are you, Major?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Let's jump right in.
All right.
Those of you that are listening in, Major Jimenez and his partner, do we call him your partner?
We can call him my partner, my boy.
Your partner, Bo Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back. July 5th.
Okay, July 5th, we went to apply for a marriage license here in Dallas, Texas, and they turned us down, and we said we weren't going to leave without a marriage license, so we didn't, and they arrested us. So we spent the night in jail, and we got out, and we were given our first court hearings, which turned out to be August the 2nd. And the coincidence about these 2 days was we picked July 5th because of the Declaration of Independence. They chose August 2nd as our first trial date, which happens to be the anniversary of the ratification of the Declaration of Independence. So, you know, all men are created equal and we can all pursue life, liberty, and happiness. So we thought it was kind of ironic that we were trying to do just that, but ended up going to jail.
So the events that led up to July 5th, how did you make the decision to apply for the marriage license? What were the preparations for it?
Okay, well, Bo and I we met last year, and then earlier this year when we kind of got together, everything was going good. So I asked him if he'd like to get married. I actually proposed, and he said yes. And so we were very excited about all that. And then just a few days later, President Obama came out and said that he was, after careful consideration, that he supported marriage equality for the LGBT community. So I thought, well, if our president supports it, then we should go down and apply for a marriage license. So that's what we did. That was kind of what prompted us to do the whole thing.
And you both ended up in jail. What was your experience in jail like?
The experience in jail was kind of interesting. After we'd been processed, it was a busy day. There was about 150 men in our section, and they call them out 50 at a time. So we were like number 49 and 50. We went and we were getting ready to sit down, and they have 3 televisions in there. The inmates can watch, but they can't hear. Now, over where the police officers sit, they can watch and hear, same station. So they had just seen us on television, you know, for getting arrested. And this one gentleman said, "Hey, what are you in here for?" And so in front of 48 men, all accused of various crimes, we got to tell them that we were in there because we tried to apply for a marriage license to get married. Surprisingly, there wasn't anything negative said to us. They were all like, mostly, what the heck, you know.
Well, I don't think that I would want to mess with you.
See, I don't know about that, but these guys, they were all supportive. And, you know, if we ran into, 100 police officers in the whole building that night, 98 of them were supportive, or at least not mean or nasty or
passing any judgment.
Right.
So you didn't have any name calling or anybody pointing fingers, or you didn't see anybody like talking behind your back or anything?
Not the first time.
Not the first time. Well, we'll get to that one next. Let's go back even further. How did you and Bo meet? Let's talk about the love story.
Well, I work at one of Dallas's finest leather bars, the Dallas Eagle, and we do a lot of fundraising. A lot of the groups that call the Eagle their home, but occasionally, you know, we also participate in fundraisers at some of the other clubs. So it happened to be a chili cook-off at one of our local clubs, and by benefit, and that's where we met. And that's where we kind of started chatting, and then, of course, we become Facebook friends and share our stories, and one thing led to another. And then when we actually got together again, it was another benefit, just so happens, and but we've been together ever since.
And so you've been together for how long now?
Well, living together since April. So.
How did you propose?
How did I propose? It was a Saturday morning. Since I work in a club, I get home about 3:30 or 4 in the morning, but I still got up early because I had a nice thing planned and put some nice music on, and I said, I'm going to fix breakfast, which I had never done for him yet. So I made my world famous blueberry pancakes, but I had taken
World famous blueberry?
famous, yes. You shake it up with the water. You know how that one goes. But I did put the blueberries in myself, so it is kind of homemade. And I had wrapped a ring in Saran wrap and stuck it in between his pancakes. So I'm watching him eat them, and when he got to it, he actually thought it was the lid piece that keeps it sealed, and was like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing for him. I'm going to kind of push this over to the side and pretend like it's not here. And then he saw that it was actually something else. So he unwrapped it, and I took it and got down on one knee, asked him if he would like to marry me.
That's sweet. You know, recently someone asked me at Station 4 what my favorite thing about working at Station 4 is, and I just, I said I love seeing boys in love.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I get to see it all the time. And I think that's very sweet. And that was in April?
That was actually in May.
In May.
In May, yes.
And so you guys decided that the day after July 4th, that you would go downtown and apply for the marriage license. In the paper, there was, a pretty good little rundown of the events.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, the woman, I don't recall her name, who basically had to tell you that she couldn't give you a marriage license, seemed very sympathetic and said some really sweet things.
Right. We've actually visited with her 3 times now. And on my own, I've been up there protesting for marriage equality since the beginning of the year, a couple times without Bo. But she says in her own words that she is actually for marriage equality. That's the way she was raised. She was raised to believe that if 2 people are in love with each other, why should anybody stand in the way of their happiness? But unfortunately, she also has a job and a family that she has to take care of.
Sure.
So she would have to really put her her job on the line to actually sign the paperwork. Of course, then we'd have to go to a judge and all that kind of stuff. But if she would just do that one little thing, that would be it would be a nice step in the right direction. And one of these days she will. One of these days that woman is going to be able to sign the papers for us to get married.
What do you think it's going to take? I mean, and can she do that in an act of defiance?
Well, she certainly could do it in an act of defiance. Now, I don't know what the repercussions would be for her. Anywhere from a slap on the wrist to losing her job. Right. But she would be a hero in the gay community.
Absolutely. And do we have the actual words of her quote? When you were leaving her, she said something like, may God bless you, or I'll be praying for you?
I don't really remember exactly that part from her. We had other supportive people there in the records building the 2 times that we actually went to apply for a marriage license. And again, it was with the exception of some security officers, people were pretty supportive. A couple of people in line got ugly with us, but there was way more support, like way more support than negativity.
What time did you walk in?
The first time we went there, I'm going to say about 2:30 in the afternoon, and it closed at 4:30.
And the building closes at 4:30, so approximately 2:45, 3 o'clock, you were denied, and you sat down in the office.
We sat down in the front of the line, we handcuffed ourselves together, and we said that we weren't going to leave without a marriage license. And they let us sit there the entire afternoon. People talked to us, people interviewed us. But then at 4:30, they clear the building, and if you're not out of there, then you're going to be charged with criminal trespass, which is what we got charged with, which is a Class B misdemeanor, $2,000 fine, and up to 180 days in jail for each time.
For each time. Let's talk about the handcuffs. They are now a little bit of a symbol of marriage defiance, marriage equality. And you have a tattoo now. There is a photographer who is doing something with the handcuffs, and I'm not exactly sure where he's from. I tried to find out, but he hasn't done very many. But what's the significance of the handcuffs?
Well,
you're grinning like there's many.
There are 1 or 2, and I'm glad this is radio, and they can't see our. Anyway, we do. Part of our leather community is a kink lifestyle, and part of the fun of that is, using handcuffs and various instruments to enjoy each other with. And so these were a pair of handcuffs that we'd had for a while. And actually, when we were handcuffed together, the first sheriff went to unlock the handcuff with his tool, and it wouldn't unlock. Everybody laughed at him. The next one tried to do it, and his tool also wouldn't unlock my handcuffs. And then the most senior sheriff there went to use his tool. It also wouldn't unlock my handcuff. So I took the chain off from around my neck, and I said, "Would you like to try the key?" And, of course, it opened it right up. So, unfortunately for me, the first sheriff that got laughed at the hardest was the one that got to lead me to his patrol car afterwards. So he didn't like being laughed at, I don't think.
No, I bet not. I bet policemen in general don't like to be laughed at all. So the handcuffs, you put them on, sat down, and you sat for about an hour and a half.
Right, we sat there while they took couple after couple after couple around us, and they gave each one of these couple a marriage license. And when at first you're kind of sitting there and you're just proud of the fact that you've actually made a stand.
Yeah.
But then I started to get pissed because I see all these people getting what they're denying us for the only reason that we're a same-sex couple. I'm 52 years old. I've been in this country as an American my entire life, and I don't have the same rights as any person walking through that line just merely because we're a same-sex couple. That's a violation of our civil rights, and it's absolutely wrong.
Absolutely. And how many couples did you witness getting marriage licenses?
I don't know. There's the register thing that we signed to actually apply for a marriage license, and it has two columns. One says bride, one says groom. Of course, we scratched out the side that said bride, and we said not applicable, and put our names there. There's a whole list of names in front of us and a whole list of names below us, and that's page after page after page every day. And I couldn't even guess a number of them. And even right now, even as we speak, there's couples going through there paying their $75 and getting a marriage license.
So it just, we were just talking about how much a marriage license costs, so it just costs $75.
Right, and for $75, these heterosexual couples get to have all the benefits entitled to them that a marriage entitles. Now, a lot of people misunderstand the fact that they say, well, you gays can get civil unions, what's the big deal? Well, there is a huge deal between civil unions and marriage, and there's about 1,300 things that heterosexual people get with marriage that we don't get with civil unions. So their $75 gets them everything. We have to pay $7,500, $10,000, $11,000 to get the same rights they get for $75. That is just flat out not equal.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons we were talking about that was, I was partnered for 22 years, and in that 22-year period, we probably spent somewhere between $12,000 and $18,000 just to make sure that our rights were protected.
Right, and all of those can be questioned or taken apart by anybody after the fact that's, a blood relative.
Absolutely.
And they can just start causing grief.
Well, and a lot of those, and a lot of people don't know that a lot of that paperwork that we got done becomes null and void when someone is deceased. Like a power of attorney no longer exists because that person is no longer alive.
Okay.
So a power of attorney does not it means nothing.
Right.
It means nothing once someone is dead. And so Jack and I missed one vital piece of paperwork, and that is the right to control remains.
Yep.
And we had all that. We had everything else. We had all the paperwork. Now, I don't have a horror story because Jack's family supported our union, supported our partnership, but I still had to get them to sign over their rights to me to do whatever we decided that we were going to do with those remains. And Jack wanted to be cremated, and the brothers still had to sign forms that they agreed because they were next of kin.
Yep. And and that's exactly right. And I did run into the exact same problem with when my first lover passed away in '93. And it's the same thing. His mom, was very supportive of our relationship and our friendship and everything. But she went into grief when he did die.
Sure.
And Michael had said he wanted to be cremated, and she freaked there at that day at the hospital. You're not going to burn my baby. But we said, Marie, this is what he wanted. And luckily, she became rational after a bit, and she says this is what he wanted. His sister agreed, I agreed, his best friends agreed, so she was okay with that. But otherwise, had it been somebody not so sympathetic to me or to his wishes, they could have done whatever they wanted to. And
Absolutely.
That's the final insult to the person who's passed away, that you don't get to follow their wishes.
Absolutely, and and in '93 things were even crazier then. And a lot of the paperwork, a lot of that wasn't even, they wouldn't even allow same-sex couples to do.
Right.
And this particular, the right to control remains, I think, is something in the last, 10 years.
Okay.
In '93, was there any family member that really stepped in to kind of cause any havoc?
No, just the mom, and that
first.
that's because I know she was grief-stricken.
Yeah.
But
What we do know is, when someone does go into grief, or someone dies, really attitudes do change. And it really is a tough time. I know of several stories, I'm sure that you do, where the family has gone in and really taken everything from the partner that belonged to his partner. And the family, in most cases, has every right to do that because we are not protected.
we're not.
And a simple marriage license really protects us on so many different ways and so many different levels. In the state of Texas, they really can deny a same-sex partner visitation in the hospital.
Yep.
I had a little bit of a problem when I was in Rockwell Presbyterian. I had a young lady that basically told me, when I inquired about some information, that she could only give that information to a family member. And so I immediately called for her supervisor and said, you guys have every piece of paperwork here. I will never be questioned at this hospital again about getting any kind of information. I will be respected here, because we had all the correct and right and up-to-date paperwork. But without that, there's a story right now on Facebook. This could happen to you. I'm sure you've seen it, where there's a lot of couples that are together, really new, like you and Bo, that may not have all that paperwork because they've only been together a year or 3 or 4, and they're young, and so they don't really think about dying, or they don't think about getting ill. And so that paperwork's not necessary at this point, and that's where it really can change, because I am sure that this could happen to you. The young man on that, he made it very clear that they wanted to be married,
Right.
and they were denied, and so the family came in and basically removed him from his partner's life completely.
Yep. And it's a sad thing that so many people are like that, especially when it comes to the LGBT community. I know there's heterosexual families that don't approve of their child's partner choices, but it's true a lot of times for us, just from our families. Luckily, I come from a very supportive family, as does my partner. But my mom always says the best and the worst comes out at funerals and weddings. So
And they do.
So you got
And
to
they
be careful.
do. Do you go to weddings?
I do go to weddings. I love to go to weddings. My brother in Georgia is a famous wedding photographer, and his wife makes beautiful wedding cakes. So I've helped them with some of their events, and it's a beautiful experience to see 2 people stand up in front of their family and friends.
It is, yes, and we certainly are being denied that. I have a lot of friends who will not participate in weddings for the simple fact that we are being denied.
Well, as a matter of fact, I have a lot of heterosexual friends who have told me, since we've started our vocal opposition to the marriage inequality, that they're going to stand with us, and they won't get married until all people can get married. And I think that's admirable for them. And, we do have a lot of straight allies in this fight, and they really are a secret weapon, because they're out there saying this is wrong, and only because it doesn't affect their lives at all, just like it shouldn't affect anybody's lives. But they care enough for civil rights and for equality that they make it a part of their lives.
Absolutely, and what we do, what you and Bo do, really doesn't affect anybody's ability to procreate. It doesn't affect anybody's ability to really go and worship at any church they choose to,
Nope.
or go shopping, or drive their car down the street. I am really often bewildered by what the big deal is. And the big deal is basically, that they are using the Bible.
Right. I like the fact that they like to use maybe 5 or 6 passages out of the Bible and neglect to follow all the other rules that are back there in Leviticus and some of Jesus' greatest teachings, love one another, his greatest commandment. They seem to forget about that. Judge not, lest ye be judged. And all these people, it really, what happens in our homes should not affect them at all. I don't know why they are so obsessed with it. Every person should just get a marriage license. They get the marriage license and the marriage ceremony confused. If your church wants to not marry people who are of the same sex, cool. But there's plenty of churches that will marry us. Or we can get married out by the lake, and there's a lot of atheists, heterosexuals and homosexual couples that are atheists. Where do they fit in? Because they're not following all the, God teachings of the sanctity of marriage. So I don't get where they just want to pick on us.
And this has been a discussion here on this show where whether or not marriage is a religious ceremony or if it is a constitutional law. Is it something that is controlled by the government? There's been a lot of talk about it because if it's religious, where, and it's only Christian, where do all the other people fit in?
Exactly.
And how can you lump it into just one thing? Are you and Bo at all religious?
We are both spiritual in our own ways. So, we have our beliefs and we have our thoughts and we have lively discussions about it on a regular basis.
Let's move to August 1st.
August the 2nd.
August the 2nd. You and Bo decided to, well, you didn't decide. You had to go to the courts.
Right. They arrested us together on the 5th, and they gave us court hearings at the same time but a different court. So we were split apart. We had to get separate attorneys to go represent us at the separate courts. And basically all they did was just postpone any action at all. But that day, since we've had a great Facebook campaign called Free Major and Bo, and a lot of support from actually around the world, but from all regions of the United States, they had solidarity sit-ins at marriage counters in San Diego, Sacramento, several places in Ohio, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Tampa, Florida, and of course we had one scheduled here. So, in fact, Campbell's Soup, who is a big supporter of LGBT rights, out in East Texas at their plant, raised the gay flag in solidarity with our protest.
I did not know that. Did you know that?
So we
That's
got
exciting.
that tweeted to us or emailed to us or something in the middle
Do you
of all
hear that,
this.
people? Campbell's Soup.
Campbell's Soup.
Chicken noodle
good.
soup. For equality.
That's right. That's right. And we do try to follow with the companies that do support equal rights and civil rights and equality for everybody. And they put the list out there, and you can choose your money where you want to buy your chicken sandwiches and where you don't. Things like that. It's very simple. Boycotts are very, very powerful.
They certainly can be, yes. And what we also have found is appreciation days can be very powerful.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So August 2nd, you get postponed in your court.
Right, so we're postponed, so we're still going to go and do our sit-in at the marriage counter because we have these going on all over the place. And it was Bo and myself, but there were also 3 other same-sex couples also applying for a marriage license that way, and then about 20 supporters, gay and straight, that were there to just be supportive. So we signed in, and no sooner had that we signed in, got denied, we went to sit down in the same place where we had sat down for hours a few weeks before, and immediately a security, or I didn't know it was a security guard until I got out of jail the next day, but he had a gun. And he acted like he had authority. And he said, get up, get out of the line, go to the lobby. And he didn't even get, we do have a right to assemble. We weren't blocking a thoroughfare or a passageway. We were sitting in the same place we sat before. But we were ordered out of the line before we even got a chance to even all get seated. And, we've likened this cause many times to Rosa Parks' story. She was sitting on the bus. She sat right behind the line where it said colored people. She was doing what she was supposed to be doing. But then the bus got a little busier, and the bus driver moved the line back, and they told her to move. And at that point, she said no. She said she was tired of it. And we didn't mind. No, we did mind. We were there to have our say. We wanted to let them know that we were there, and we were still pushing for marriage equality, and we still wanted to get a marriage license. When what I thought was a Dallas sheriff's officer threw us out of the line and told us, to get off the bus, basically, it just hit me wrong. This is what we've been fighting for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and to not even get a chance to assemble peaceably went all over me. And I went back up there. Bo kind of said, please don't do it, but he saw that I was determined, because this wasn't going to happen to us again. Or it was, but I wasn't going to let him just, push us away. So I went back up there, and he said, I told you to leave, or else you'll be arrested. And I said, I have a right to be here. And that's when I handcuffed myself back to the thing again. And then I stayed there until 4:30, and then they arrested me once again for refusing to leave without a marriage license. Bo could not risk getting arrested again, and neither could the other people in our group. But they all stayed till 4:30 when they turned the lights off in support. And we wanted to let them know that, we do exist. We're here. You can't just keep moving the lines around us. You can't throw us out. You can't put us in the lobby. You can't put us out of the building, because we're here. And we deserve the same civil rights as every other person walking through this door. And it's appalling that they keep doing it to us.
What do you say to the people who are saying that you're fighting a battle you can't win because Texas does not allow same-sex marriages? It's not Dallas. It's not Dallas County. It is Texas. Texas government says